Hello everybody, welcome to your next lesson. This is going to cover variables and expressions, and more importantly, evaluating expressions. So I'm going to be using the word evaluating. Learning target today is that you, the student, will evaluate expressions by substituting numbers for variables. It may not mean much to you right now, but we're going to cover that and you'll see what I mean. Okay, one of the things that I want to go over here is what an expression is, and I know I already have talked about this in a previous lesson, but an expression, just so you know, an expression has no answer. They're open-ended, much like a question you might ask somebody. You might ask somebody, how are you feeling? You could ask that question to 25 people and get 25 different responses. Same thing applies to expression. Expressions have no one answer. That's just how they are. They're open-ended. Infinite number of solutions. I can't say for certain what the answer is to that, because it depends on what C is. We don't know what C is, so C could be a number of things. That's why it's called a variable. Let's move on. A variable, another thing I want to talk about here today is a variable. A variable is a symbol, a letter, in most cases, that is used to represent a number. Variables can represent many things. In algebra, you have your letter. That is considered your variable. When you have an expression, all expressions have some type of variable in it. And it depends on what you want to use for the variable. You can use anything you want for the variable. I should say, you can use whatever letter you want. You can use I, you can use T or C, it doesn't matter. In this picture right here, you can see, those are all examples of real life variables. A variable is like your weight. Your weight can change, especially at your age. You guys are all growing. Weather is a variable. Your age, you're constantly changing your age. Of course, nobody stops aging. Population grows, it shrinks. That's a variable. Time, of course, that is always a variable. You can say that's T. Stocks, the price of a stock. You can say P is the price of a stock. That's a variable. Fingernails, how they grow. The length of your fingernails. The amount of change in your pocket, that could, we can use C for that. That is definitely a variable. I think you get the picture here. Variables are many things. They can change. They're usually things that change. Another thing I want to talk about here is what a constant is. Now, a constant is a number on its own. It's the opposite of what a variable is. Constants cannot change. They remain constant, hence the name, constant. So in this diagram right here, you'll see lots of examples of constants. Months in a year. Okay, we have not changed our calendar in ages. So 12 months is going to stay pretty much the same. 12 is going to be 12. So 12 would be a constant. Cups in a gallon, that's going to stay constant. Inches in a foot. We will always have 12 inches in a foot. Your birthday, the day you were born, is a constant that will not change, no matter how much you want it to be different. All you people that are born on Christmas, you know what I mean. Hours in a day, that will always be 24. So constants are the numbers, basically. The constant in this expression, 3 in this expression right here, is considered the constant. In this expression right here, the number 1 is the constant. It's actually -1, but that is your constant. That number is not going to change. This can be a little bit tricky. If it's just 5x, you might not think there's a constant to it, but you can always make up your own. Good standby. By default, you can just say it's +0. You can just make up any number, but adding 0 to that expression does not change it. 5x plus 0 is going to be the same as 5x. So you can say this expression has a constant of 0. This expression had a constant of 3. This expression had a constant of -1. And then let's get into evaluating. Now, evaluating expressions, you might see that on an upcoming worksheet. You might see the word evaluate on a test or a quiz, and that always throws people off. Evaluate is just another way to say solve. That's just what it means. But we're going to substitute numbers for the letters. So first of all, before I get started on this, before I get moving on this equation right there, let's make sure we know what everything means. 2n, what does that mean? Right here, we have n equals 8. So does 2n mean 28, or does it mean 2 times 8? We have talked about this before in class, I know, but let's just make sure we know. What does it mean? I'll tell you what it doesn't mean. It doesn't mean 28. It means 2 times a number. That's what that all means. So 2n means 2 times whatever n is, plus j. So we're going to add j to that. So now all we have to do is we're going to evaluate it. Now to evaluate it, we just put those numbers in. So n is 8, so I'm going to do 2 times 8 plus whatever j is, and j is 3. And now it's just a matter of solving it. 2 times 8 is 16. 16 plus 3 is 19. And there's the answer. So you can see from this expression right here, 2n plus j, that these truly are variables, n and j. because it depends on what we say n is and what we say j is. I could have written this problem an infinite number of ways, any number of ways, and made n whatever I wanted. I could have made n 0 and j -5. I could make it anything I want. I can make one of the letters equal to pi or something. Alright, next example here is hx. Again, another example just like the previous one. This time around I have two letters next to each other. So hx, what does that mean? Does it mean, well, h is 5 and x is 9, but does it mean 59? No, it does not. It means 5 times 9 plus 5. That's our constant. 5 is our constant, and these are our variables. So 5 times 9, 45 plus 5 is equal to 50. There's that. Okay, so these are not too difficult, but that's what it's all about, just evaluating. Okay, last example here, h is 3h minus x. So all I'm going to do now is just substitute these values for those letters. Okay, h equals 5, here and here, x equals 9. So I'm going to rewrite it. Make sure you don't try to do this all in your head. I know some of these seem pretty simple, but just I want to see you guys rewriting it. H plus 3h. Now 3h means 3 times h. I'm going to write 3 times 5 minus 9. And then let's go ahead and solve it, right? 3 plus 5? Should we do that first? No, we should follow order of operations. So we're going to do multiplication first. 5 plus 15 minus 9. And then just solve it left to right. When addition and subtraction are together, solve it left to right. 5 plus 15 is 20, and 20 minus 9 is 11. And there's your answer, everybody. That's it for this lesson. This was a pretty quick one. That's basically what you're going to be doing with this concept. You're just going to be taking your variables and substituting them with numbers. That's it. That's all there is to it. So everyone have a great night. See you tomorrow.